I'll call a meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Allendale Land Use Board, at which formal action will be taken on the items listed on the agenda and upon any other matters which may properly come before the Land Use Board. The requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied through posting on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and the borough website, and by publication in the record on January 28th, 2023. Copies being sent to the Ridgewood News. Certain items but on the agenda will open to the public for comment or testimony, and the board will advise the public when such matters are open for comment or testimony. Okay. Last, join me in a salute to the flag, which is behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Bergen.
Here.
Board Member Petrino is absent. Board Member Kistner.
Here.
Councilman Delavatio.
Here.
Board Member Dallo.
Here.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Here.
Mayor Wilsinski.
Here.
Chairman Quinn.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next matter is approval of minutes, January 18th, 2023, Land Use Board minutes. They were circulated. If anybody's got any issues with them, if not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. Thanks,
Second,
Joe.
Sirico.
Thanks, Mike. Any discussion? No. We'll move to a roll call for
Board
approval.
Member Bergen.
Yes.
Board Member Kistner.
Yes.
Councilman Delavatio.
Yes.
Board Member Dallo.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Mayor Wilsinski.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes. Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, we've got two resolutions to go over from memorialized from the last meeting. First one is Land Use Board 2023-01, Brianne and Gregory Zepp, 79 Edgewood Road, Allendale, Block 1403, Lot 2, and a two-story addition at the rear of the existing home and a rear yard setback. Chris, can you
Sure, this is
phrase
our
the resolution?
resolution, in the AA zone, 79 Edgewood Road, block 1403, lot 2. We had the public hearing last meeting. They submitted plans, they were reviewed. There was a rear setback variance request with regard to the addition of on a pre-existing non-conforming condition. The application was approved by vote, and the resolution is here tonight to be memorialized.
Thank you. Anybody have any additions or comments on the resolution? Not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved, Kistner.
Thank you, Ron.
I'll second.
Melissa, thank you for the second. Any discussion? All right, we'll move to a vote.
Board Member Bergen.
Yes.
Board Member Kistner.
Yes.
Councilman Delavatio.
Yes.
Board Member Dallo.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Mayor Wilsinski.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes. Okay, that motion carries.
Is this the official copy again?
The one that's in the package, but
Doesn't have the carried or.
This one,
yeah,
page.
none of them do actually. I'll just mark it as carried. Thanks, Mike. Okay, that's good. And the next and last item on the resolutions, Land Use Board 2023-02. Andrew McVeigh and Jacqueline Darminio, 900 Franklin Turnpike, Block 502, Lot 9, a second floor addition.
You, Mr. Chairman, this resolution is to memorialize the approval from the last meeting from the 900 Franklin Turnpike application. There were several pre-existing non-conforming conditions on this property: undersized lot size, lot width, and the addition sought to basically add a second floor, finish out dormers on it. And the application was approved. This resolution memorializes the approval.
Thank you.
The standard conditions.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
So move, Sirico.
Michael, thank you. We have a second on the motion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay, any discussion? Then we'll go to a vote.
Board Member Bergen, Yes. Board Member Kistner.
Yes.
Councilman Delavatio.
Yes.
Board Member Dallo.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico.
Yes.
Mayor Wilsinski.
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes. Okay, motion's carried. Put them back in there. Move the sets. Thank you. Okay. The only public meeting item for the evening is application Land Use Board 2023-03. Craig and Courtney Cagney, 320 Park Ave. Block 2206, lot 9, construction of a new front porch, second floor addition of a dormer to an existing detached garage.
Mr. Chairman, while the applicant is getting ready, I can go over some jurisdictional matters for you. The notice of publication has been provided to us along with the receipts of mailing. I note that all of the required mailings have been done and the publication was made within the time period allowed. The notice is proper. I also note that the Bergen County Planning Board was noticed as is required since this is on a county road, so we have jurisdiction to proceed and we are ready to proceed.
Thank you. Who do we have this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McFarland Whitaker, representing the applicants, Courtney and Craig Cagney. They're the owners of 320 Park Avenue in Allendale. It's shown on your tax map as block 2206, lot number 1. This property is in the AA zone. The applicant is proposing to make modifications to the existing home. The modifications pertains to the construction of a new front porch, a second floor addition to the home, and an addition to a dormer to the existing barn, also referenced as a garage, non-functioning garage at the current time that is going to be made much more functional. The interesting part about this, it's a home I'm sure you're all very familiar with. You're familiar with the location of it. It's a home that certainly predates your zoning code. It's a home that has a vintage of around 1870s. And on the basis of that, we know your code came into effect in the 1940s. So this home was located on a lot that was created where roadways were not as well defined as they are now. And I would submit to you that the overall property itself is a poster child for why there is a variance statute under the C1 and C2 criteria in the municipal land use law. And I'll go through one of the reasons for that. But just to put on the table what the variances are, we're seeking a variance for the front yard setback. We're seeking a variance for that front yard setback on both Park as well as on West Crescent. We're seeking variance for the building height of an accessory building, and we're seeking variance for the building, the accessory building, where it encroaches, because your have an ordinance that's a little convoluted on how to do the calculations. I'll say that that ordinance for sure was an ordinance that was created well after this barn was built, with the roadways that are there. The interesting part about this is that the variance relief we are seeking in no way exacerbates the pre-existing conditions. So there is no further infringements into these setbacks. There's no further infringements as it pertains to the barn itself. The barn itself is going to have the exact same footprint. You'll hear testimony that we want to put a dormer on it so that the access inside that barn to the second story is appropriate. You go up a set of stairs now, there's no headroom. The building code doesn't match what the building code requires. That's because, again, the barn was built long before the building code existed. The dormer does not expand the height. The height of the barn remains the same. The height of the barn is a nonconformity. It pre-exists the code. The building itself is on a very triangular lot. Your zoning code, when you do setbacks in any ordinance for variance relief, you always contemplate that you've got a building lot typically that's perpendicular for your corners. If not, at least you have a building lot that has 4 sides. And this one, more than likely, when you look, has basically 3 sides rather than 4. So I'm submitting to you tonight that there's a number of reasons to grant variance relief, recognizing that there's no exacerbation of pre-existing non-conforming conditions. One pertains to the fact that there is a lawfully existing structure on the property. That's the language right out of the statute, as you know. It's language that was inserted in the statute to take into account buildings that existed before the code, and that's what's here now. The second reason variance relief can be granted is when there's an unusual shape of the property itself. I think we can all agree that this piece of property is unusual by shape, by way of shape. The orientation and the topography of the lot also can warrant variance relief. This barn has some topographic conditions as it pertains to the barn that existed there for a long time. That's why the barn, again, exceeds the height that is required under the ordinance. With that said, the interesting part, I've appeared before you on many occasions, and many times I have the opportunity to have to talk about FAR. And refreshingly tonight, first application for me in front of you this year, I don't have to do that. We have an FAR that is 16.5, and your FAR in this instance would be 21.8. So well below what the FAR is, and that's not anything that the board has to review or struggle with tonight. We are conforming there. We've got architectural plans that we've presented to you with this application, and you'll see also that from a C2 standpoint, under the variance relief, this architectural element is aesthetically is going to bring this property up to a much higher level. It's basically creating improvements on the property to meet today's standards. We have an old home. One of the ways to preserve an old home is to create and give it longevity and make it functional in today's world. The right kind of rooms inside, master suites and things like that. And that's what's being proposed here. And with that said, the other important part is that from the standpoint of preserving homes that have some character to them, that's also a provision under the purposes of municipal land use law. And I think we meet that element here. So I believe that variance relief can be granted under your C1 criteria as well as the C2 criteria. That's the overview of the application. I have Peter Cooper with me this evening, who is our architect of record, and I would have him walk you through the plan and testify as to what's being proposed. And then on the basis of that, I will just sum up very briefly as to our property that we put into effect. Besides the plans that you have and all with the application, I don't think they have to be marked separately. We also have some photos.
Right, Ann? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth through the course of this application?
I do.
All right.
Mr. Cooper, if you would give the benefit to the board of your education and professional background.
I have a master's degree from Penn in planning. I've got a undergraduate degree from City College in architecture and landscape architecture, and another undergraduate degree from the University of Vermont in plant soil science. Practice in '92. I was licensed.
And would it be correct to say that you have been qualified before this board as well as other boards in the field of architecture and in connection with landscape architecture and with planning?
I have.
I would ask that his credentials be permitted to qualify him as an expert witness in those fields so that he can testify and render an opinion in those fields.
That will accept.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cooper, you've had the benefit of going to the site, reviewing the building that is there, and then meeting with your clients for the purposes of creating architectural plans for revisions to the buildings that are there. Is that correct?
I have, yeah.
So what I would like you to do is take the board and the members of the public through what the current existing conditions are, explain what the setbacks are, review what those non-conformities are, and then explain what is being proposed.
I guess the best place to start is to show you the lot and dramatize how challenging this lot is. Pie shape, which you can see the house is situated such that it's more towards the apex. Therefore, the setbacks, which I've highlighted in yellow, whether you can see them or not, I'm not sure, but almost 90% of the houses in the no build effectively in the front yard setback. So we're looking at this white portion, that's the existing house. The addition would go to the right of that.
Can I interrupt 1 second? This is, the plan that was submitted to the board,
It is.
just for the record. It's, I don't know if you made it clear for the record what plan sheet that you were using.
Referring to T1, there's one minor adjustment, which is a stone base to the elevation on the front elevation and the right side. Other than that, the plan is the same that was submitted.
So T1 and, dated, issued for variance 12/27/22.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
So just pick up where I was prior. It's nestled into the pie of this pie-shaped lot, and there's considerable slope change. So you have effectively, you look at the topo, you've got a 30-foot drop from the left down to the stream. Within that change, there's the driveway is about 98. So this is somewhere around a 20-foot drop between the considerable drop between the house and the drive. The topo is significant change from left to right. The ravine, though, has a very serious grade. You will see the topo, the way it's grouped together, shows you that you have primarily almost a 50% slope in some cases. So if you assess the site, the steep slope portion of the site makes up almost a third of the property. It dominates property. So needless to say, the challenges of topo and setback are cumulatively a strong impact on the site with the opportunities are. There's also, which follows, very little flat area, both which to build and for the use of their yard. So the Cagneys, who have a rather pretty old house, have very difficult time utilizing their property. They've done a fairly good job of leveling out the front on Park, but the West Crescent is extremely busy, and that's the front yard setback, makes that unusable. And so the addition seeks to move to the right, the north side, to achieve a family room and a master suite, and then the associated uses therein. The family room, modest, reasonable size, I guess, it's 19.5 by 24.5, has a mudroom behind, outer room, a closet. It's connected by a sunroom, almost a breezeway, and that helps with circulation. If you're arriving, you come up a rather steep set of stairs to a tight landing. The porch, by the way, was built so that it does not encroach any further, nor do the steps. They're in the exact same location. They're shifted to the right and slightly wider. A more generous foyer, no deeper than it is now, and then the sunroom affords the ability for somebody to arrive side and to circulate to the family room, which allows the house to be more receptive for guests. The kitchen will remain, the breakfast or dining area will remain, and the porch to the right was designed such that it would receive the master suite and the master bath. It sort of goes to the premise that the lot is challenged, the slope, and the very precious little flat area means the ability to build in this direction is pretty constrained. And were they to build to the front, it would render what little flat yard area unusable. So the plan or design is to build to the right, and therefore the porch is required to receive the master bath. It also, as a byproduct of that, allows the addition not to encroach any further into the Park Ave. You'll see that because the flaring nature of the property, as the addition goes to the right, it moves further away from West Crescent, and similarly, it moves further away from the park. So that the longitudinal direction of the addition actually serves a positive effect by not encroaching on either of the two front yards.
So let's just stop there for a moment. From a planning perspective, I stated this earlier, but just would you agree that the lot itself is unusual by way of shape, not being the traditional four-sided lot?
For sure.
Okay. And in looking at this home and knowing the vintage of the home, there are certain setbacks that are not conforming, and those are the front yard setbacks, correct?
Correct.
Can you just point them out where the closest places are?
So we've got a 14.05 off of Park, that's the front corner. On the West Crescent side, we have 23.05.
And those are the closest points, correct?
Right.
And you used the word flare before. From there, those setbacks flare out to become greater.
That is correct.
Am I correct to say that on the basis of what you've just described as the addition and modifications to the building, that those two setbacks are not being exacerbated?
Correct.
And basically, any modifications being made in those areas where the setbacks are the closest, it's still on the same footprint.
Exactly, and even including the porch and the steps, which does not encroach any further into the setback, the most egregious part of the existing house.
For the principal residence, other than where the front yard setbacks are non-conforming now, are there any, for the principal residence, are there any other variances required from the bulk standards of the Allendale Code for what is being proposed?
We're considerably under all the other requirements, pervious building, and as you mentioned, the FAR, where we're permitted to have 5684, we're at 4264, quite a bit under the house allowance for the size.
And irregardless of slope, we are also meeting the height requirements, correct?
We are lifting the roof, but we're within the 35 feet.
One of the things that has been done, Mr. Breland's report, is a recommendation, if this were to be approved, that when this is fully constructed, that an as-built survey be provided showing that the as-built matches what the board would have approved, and that would be a standard provision stipulated to that, correct?
You have no issue with that?
Okay. So now I'd like to have you describe, staying with the principal residence, what the facade and what the building materials and the look of the building would be.
It won't. You can see fairly clearly there's an upscale, in keeping with the rural tradition of Allendale, has reverse gables. The roof line is essentially the same on the existing house as it currently is, but it's raised a foot and a half. The addition has this dramatic steep pitched roof, which has a suite at the end, and there are roof returns. So if you'll observe the roof over the existing porch, there's a skirt roof, arch roof, then there's a porch roof. So in effect, there is a continuous horizontal roof running across the front of the house. There's a dimensionality to the addition. It's not by any means a box. This portion addition projects forward. There's a number of box bays. There's a box bay in the center, a box bay at the bedroom on the left, The addition for the family and the master suite moves forward, skirt was there, then the porch and the bath step back, as you can see in the plan or the profile. So there's a fair amount of relief. Cedar shake, or new cedar siding on the, apex of the gables. There'll be upscale trim, so you'll have frieze boards and crown, corner boards, party line siding. There'll be plenty of detail.
And that type of detail surrounds it on all four sides of the building.
Indeed it does. Not to neglect the last addition, which was a stone base with an arch, which will be one of Courtney's particular interests. And I think it shows the level of care and effort that's gone into the down the house. This is the right side, this is the profile change to the porch, nested gables. This is the rear elevation or the west crescent elevation. There's plenty going on. I should also mention, we will get to that testimony, that there's a row of evergreens that is contiguous along West Crescent, running pretty much from the corner past where the addition will be.
We've observed that, we're gonna show a photograph later.
Yeah.
Any other detail or any other part of explanation as it pertains to the principal residence?
I think it's a design that would be very much in character with Allendale and some of the more traditional homes in town. Other than that,
So then let's take us to the barn, also referred to as a garage. What is the condition and location of that currently, and what is being proposed?
So the barn exists also in the brick zone, with the exception of a small corner of it. It is a 1.5 story structure. It is out of grade on the Park Ave side. It supports an opportunity for a garage under, which is part of the plan. There currently is no garage for this house, so there's a significant improvement in that regard. This is the face of the barn that faces the house. It will be revisited in its siding. It's fair to say that the siding, although quaint, is quite dilapidated, and there is no internal system, so it's exposed to the weather, and as it penetrates, it's starting to fail. So this improvement will restore what is really a classic structure in town, and without this improvement, there's risk to the structure's survival, if you will.
And by risk, you mean that it would eventually deteriorate and fall apart?
No doubt. Who knows how long?
So you looked at this, and from a structural standpoint, am I correct to say that you looked at this for the purposes of restoring it and making it functional?
Correct. And I would also emphasize that the skeleton will stay, not rebuilding. It will be enforcing, but not rebuilding the barn. It stays intact. So the surfaces will be enhanced, and it will be appropriate. A stone veneer up to the rim of the second floor. We will have board and batten stained cedar for the siding on all four sides. And so there'll be, say, considerable effort and expense to bring this barn up to the standard that would be both appropriate and respectful of tradition.
And with that said, currently you stated that the garage, the barn, doesn't serve as a garage because it's not feasible to, correct?
Exactly.
Just to point out, a garage from a planning perspective and by Allendale code is something that's encouraged.
I would say that a house of this stature should have a garage.
So with that said, just show how you're going to make this barn functional for a garage.
So it will require a reinforcing. There's a combination of a level foundation along the house side, and there's a CMU foundation that exists, but there's some missing pieces of it. The rubble foundation on the West Crescent side will need to be rebuilt. So in other words, the stone will be backed up with CMU, and there'll be considerable effort to reinforce the existing foundation. part of the facade will make allowance for an oversized single bay garage door. That's, and the floor, you have to be dug out, and flat, the whole bit.
But at the end of the day, what you're proposing here is restoring the barn, but keeping it looking like a barn with a garage function.
Very much so. I would say that, the false barn doors with a French door, there'll be a skirt roof with brackets, the metal track. It'll have all those details that you would see appropriate for a barn's structure.
Now, take us through what is being proposed in the interior of this barn.
And in fact, there is an existing set of stairs, but it borders on being a ladder. It's really just an opportunity to get to the second floor. A code compliant stair requires the lifting of the roof on the second floor. It'll start in this corner, which is the west crescent side, and it'll rise and it'll land roughly in the middle of the downside slope, if you will, the stream side. The first floor will be left open. There'll be a powder room. The idea is, family recreation, kids parties, exercise, and the ability to utilize this rather beautiful structure, which currently is pretty much abandoned.
You stated this stairway is going to now become code compliant, building code compliant, because it's not now.
That is correct.
And there's a certain headroom that's required for that, correct?
Yeah.
You stated that the roof is going to be altered. Would it be correct to say that the current height of the barn, though, is not being changed?
It's not changing at all.
Okay, so how are we altering the roof to make it code compliant?
In fact, a dormer is introduced, and let's also recognize that the wall heights are about 4 feet, so that when one arrives at the top of the stairs, that dormer is the only way you would avoid hitting your head. In effect,
And so by the basis of being able to get up there, you've now created an ability for storage in the barn, is that correct?
yeah, it has a little bit of romance. It's got an open stair that adds light to the below, but this is really its primary purpose.
Now, as far as the barn and the residential structure that's being proposed, let's just talk about exterior lighting. Is there anything being proposed other than proposed required lighting by a door and landscape lighting?
Nothing that would be of any effect to the public realm. There'll be probably soffit lighting, for example, whether it be lanterns on the garage side that has most likely have lanterns on the garage door side as well.
In connection with the landscaping aspect, just going back to your T1 probably, what is being proposed for landscaping?
This plan illustrates the fact that there is an existing row of evergreens. I guess I could supplement with a photograph if you felt that was appropriate.
This is something we could mark as A1. These are photographs taken by you?
Yeah.
Proctor today.
So we have Park Ave. That's
A1.
that would be, I marked it as let's see,
Park Avenue, 5.
at 5, yes. And then 4 is West Crescent,
Pass these in.
if you would, I think, appreciate it.
So these are both A1?
One says 4 and one says 5. So 4 is West Crescent, the view is northeast. Park Ave is the view northwest.
It's also marked the photograph you have of the barn itself and showing what its current condition is.
That has not been marked, and I have, so you can call that 6, if you will. That's taken from West Crescent. This is taken from the subject property. That would be 8.
7.
Last one was 7. This one was 8. I'll mark them for you if you wish. I'm sorry.
4, 5,
Yes, 6.
6, and this is 7. And that's the barn from the separate property?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to guess, elaborate on the photograph, the view from West Crescent gives you a fairly good idea of the state and condition of the barn, its siding, etc. The entrance to the barn will be relocated where it currently exists, facing West Crescent. It will now have access by way of facing the house, which makes sense. The second photograph, which shows the view from the subject property, gives you an idea of the walkout basement or garage and gives you an idea of the slope change. Also gives you an idea of the rubble foundation and clarity of the photograph. You might have to look carefully, but the siding is struggling, to say the least.
And with the other photographs and landscaping that's proposed, let's just put that on the record.
Okay, so L1, which I don't believe was part of the package, it was just done last week. The primary evidence here is the row of evergreen, I believe in hemlock, if I'm not mistaken, that continues along, quite extensive along West Crescent, and there's also a row along Park Ave, so that the house is fairly well buffered in terms of its view, and they're already 8 feet, so it's only going to be more significant in short duration.
And standard foundation planting will be provided in completion of construction.
Yeah, absolutely, appropriate to the house.
So that existing landscaping is to remain?
Yes,
So, yes, this is really what we're showing. Thank you for that. The clarification is this is an existing landscape plan. There's no proposed plantings.
in connection with the, just as a stipulation, and as a step forth in Mr. Freeland's report, if this board approves it, all of the soil erosion and sediment control measures, will be adhered to.
Correct.
There's a request for, water and sewer services to be addressed with, PV inspection, prior to reuse on the sewer service, and, the water service material has to be verified. We can stipulate to that.
Yeah.
And we've already stipulated to an as-built.
Yeah. I would suggest that the surveyor will come out when the vision set to make sure we're compliant.
This concludes our presentation at this time.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the fact there's no garage today? You mentioned a driveway. I'm not sure where the driveway is. Can you elaborate on where it is and what you seek to create a garage base somewhere, and I'm not sure where.
Sorry if I wasn't clear. So there is an existing drive which comes through here. It is the edge of, there's a fence to the downside. It is the edge of the ravine in effect. So there is a drive, but it really is situated probably for lawn equipment and whatever was able to fit in the garage. It's not a.
That's on the Park Ave side.
Yes, correct. Yes, there's a, yeah. And I believe the
photograph.
You don't have that drawing.
I do have a photograph that shows.
Mr.
that-
Cooper, what is the title of that drawing you're
That's
here
what he
on?
mentions, the landscape drawing, the L1.
We don't have that.
No, he said that tonight, we don't have it tonight,
Mhm.
but we can go back to, C1.
This is photograph 7 that gives you a view of the gate that exists, that is the entrance to the drive. The challenge.
Is that used today?
So the challenge for the Cagney, I'm sure that they will attest, is the fact that, you know, if this is a long drive and a difficult incline to arrive at the house, there's a secondary drive, which is at grade within a foot or two of the, you know, there's a modest grade change to get. So they do park here as a matter of convenience, but it's a busy road.
Off of Crescent,
Right.
the county road, which is busy and bends it.
Very much so.
Okay.
But if they were to have a gathering or guests, it's undoubtedly the better choice to become.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. But it does require a significant, if the topo elevation is 120 and it's 100 effectively, that's a big rise, right? 120 to 110 is 10-foot rise to get from the drive to the house.
All right, yeah, it does on the photograph, it doesn't look that.
It doesn't look that severe. Yeah, it's very deceiving when you, and I think there are times when, in fact, I think this photograph would do a better job. This is this is the photograph has 1 and 2 marked. The Park Ave photograph is taken from effectively, the drive entrance back to the house, and I think it better illustrates the significant, rise in grade. It's a visual.
Up
You have
to the
numbers,
house.
but-
It rises up towards the house, or
Yes.
down towards the drive.
Correct, so you're
Okay.
looking up at the house and from the drive to the finished floor.
And where's the proposed garage space then?
Underneath the barn.
You have the one photograph.
So you're gonna use that driveway to drive into there theoretically,
Yes.
Exactly.
There's an opening there now, but it's not
wide enough.
wide enough for a motor vehicle, but this, as you said, the building's gonna be short enough for it to be widened and be able to use it.
Okay, so it'll function as a driveway,
That's
which
right.
currently you're deficient
Exactly.
in that perspective, okay?
So the intent is to keep the driveway
Yeah.
off of West Crescent, that's gonna stay.
So you're gonna have
If you wanted to park a
As
car
they are
in the
now.
garage, you'd have to come in off park.
So I guess if you have multiple cars, you can stack them.
Obviously, not ideal.
I know, I have a single car garage, I know all about stacking. Talk to me a little bit about what you're doing on the front porch. You're creating some sort of covering, I suppose, for inclement weather, but you're saying you're not changing any of the existing
Okay, thank you.
steps,
Thank you.
stairs, or encroachment, because you're already very, very tight to the street. You're 14 feet.
There was a bit of, exchange between Courtney and myself because you'll see it's a 3.5 foot porch. It's pretty minimum. And I was hoping to increase that. It became evident that increasing that has lots of obstacles. You know, the existing set of stairs leads to a very narrow landing, concrete landing, then there's a fence, and then there's a series of stairs. It can't change. It's just too, and so above and beyond the zoning implications, it's an extraordinarily challenging situation for the house and the arrival. But we're widening it, and so you get something a little more gracious, but it's really a, much more appropriate way of accessing the house. So you've got something that is about 10 feet across, and it is a sense of arrival, and it's more appropriate for a house of this size. I'm sure you can imagine something that was smaller, which is not what it is.
And plus you're adding on, and I'll give you that you are adding on to the deeper section of the property, which we commend you for doing that.
And if you have more than one person that's arriving, then, a 3.5 foot, stoop allows very few people to stand. So 3 people could conceivably stand on a porch that is, 11 foot wide minus, the 2 columns, so it's 9 feet effectively clear of the columns. At least you have an opportunity for a couple to stand there, or kids trick or treating, or whatever. It's a safety. It has a safety component to it as well.
Okay.
The plans we show, it looks like it's the existing stairs are dashed in a little bit, and it looks like the new stairs do come out some. Is that right?
That is, I think the fact is that the stairs are non-compliant in depth. So whereas 10 inches is required, or they're extremely narrow and they're not to code. So by rebuilding them, there might be an inch added.
So it
each
is
stair.
extending just because you're making the code compliant stairs.
Yes.
Is that the 4 3/4 inch dimension?
4 3/4.
That's what I'm seeing, 4 3/4.
I'm sorry, that's a I think that's a residual dimension of the post that doesn't apply to the stairs of the post.
The post width,
Yeah. I feel at the bottom. I'm not sure. And that might, that is a residual dimension that has, not much application to this, or relevance to the application. So if you were to take the
stated dimension are 5'3" to the end of the stairs,
right,
but I'm seeing dashed lines that are somewhat before that.
so
And that's where I was making the assumption of the 4 3/4.
yeah, I'm sorry, the 4 3/4, again, is a residual to the first proposed. The stairs itself is moving over and away from the current location. So let's say that the current stairs are, for argument's sake, 9 inches and they go to 10 after, 7 inches is added. But if you consider the fact that the stairs are moving to the left and the fact is the property is pie shaped, we are gaining some distance away from Park Ave in effect because of the angle. So the net difference is roughly negligible or zero.
Yeah, I'm not on this. I'm sorry, I just have it blown up on my computer here.
Oh, okay. It helps you to see a little better than I. So the intent is that the same number of advisors, porch is identical, stairs will comply with code, stairs will move to the right, and so even though we're adding, let's call it 5 inches, because each tread is an inch deeper, it is moving away, and therefore it's further away from the Park Ave, so the net difference is about the same.
And on the description that you, but it said second floor addition to existing home. But you guys you're adding on a 2-story addition, so there's a foundation, you're just not adding a second floor. Okay.
The footprint is effectively the same of the existing house. We are building out over the existing porch. The existing bedrooms are 8 by 10, extraordinarily small. Both bedrooms will enjoy a slightly larger depth, or 13 roughly. So, but the footprint hasn't changed.
Right,
Except
you're expanding.
for the porch, which is this sunroom, and I talked about that at the outset. I can elaborate more if you wish.
No, when it says second floor addition, I think the second floor addition, not a 2-story addition.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify, because it doesn't look like it in the description. Yeah.
Perhaps, yes, thank you. It's clear to say it's a two-story addition.
What spot does say before you?
It's not in
Oh, I'm
not in
reading
description.
Oh, I'm not.
on here.
In the first floor of that addition to the right, you said is a covered porch. That's going to be receptive to the second floor. Would you explain what that means?
It's the ability to achieve a massive needed more width. And the opportunity to build out over the existing family room was deemed not a good idea, because the massing of the 2-story space would completely obscure the view of the main house. It also makes roof lines very problematic. The desire to have this steep pitch roof, which in effect reduces the scale of the addition. So when you're looking at it from the front, you'll see that by having a very steep pitch roof, it brings the massing down, if you will, as opposed to having a three-story addition. So the steep pitch roof, works aesthetically, but it also, reduces the mass that is received from Park Ave. The net result was there was really no opportunity to add, and we pursued it, we tried it, and it just was unacceptable. So the only answer, we were you at the time. So the master bath was built to the right, and it made for very pleasing, for two reasons, right? It made for much more less awkward roof lines. It occupied the flattest part of the property, doesn't cause any encroachment for mass and setback. And it kind of forced the issue of a covered porch to receive it, which is not a bad amenity to have, I think, for both the public and for the client. Covered porches are attractive and are nice places to gather.
And the porch would be facing towards the stream and the open property?
Correct, exactly. So you'd be sitting on a porch, just looking at the woods and the stream.
Okay.
That's not a bad thing.
You had mentioned archways, which I think is on your elevations, but it's not shown on the ones we have. And I don't see a basement plan. Can you explain what's happening in that space?
I must say, I totally find I didn't think the basement was going to come up in testimony, but I appreciate your attention to it. But yes, because both the Cagneys were very strident about the fact that they want to utilize the yard to be possible. So, in effect, this space, as you see, is down to the left, and it's a one-story structure without basement. So you'll have an effect about a 9-foot covered area that serves to further enhance the experience between the usable yard and the house, and be able to put a chair out and sit underneath that. And let's face it, if you're trying to utilize your yard and the yard is a full story below the main house, it's difficult to navigate on a regular basis. So this affords a little bit more usability to the yard.
So it's set back the same line as the second story? Is that?
It's about 8 foot back. Yeah, it's in line with the existing house from straight across. So if you see the existing house,
Yeah.
If this is the line of the existing house, that line will carry all the way through, and so what's below it, and it's pulled out as 7 foot. Okay, and that's clear dimension. So let's assume it's about 8 feet, 4, 8 foot 6, and not 8 foot.
And that goes around the side as well?
It terminates, it can't connect with the porch.
I think I saw the archways on that side, or is that just kind of a faux archway
Well, the
or
porch
detail?
itself will be open underneath, right? So it's a porch, so that'll be completely open.
Okay.
Right?
Completely open. Okay.
So the door that you're depicting on the right side elevation, that door is set back. It's not in line with the window above it. I'm looking at drawing,
So for this door,
I guess it's A4.
for this door is under the, you're right, we're missing a stone column.
Yeah, there's,
The
yeah.
Cagney's missions me to provide the drawings the last minute after the drawings submitted, and it's been challenging.
I mean, when I'm looking at this, it almost looks like the door and the window marked CW 245 are in line as I look at it from here.
So there is a door that is under the stoop, and that's the door that exists. So there's a door that exists and will be rebuilt under the vestibule. And that's what you're seeing. That door is at the vestibule level. What's missing here is the stone column and the last arch, which is set back, and forgive me for that. You have to draw it for you if you wish.
I think it's shown in this picture, right? This is the door,
Yes, exactly.
and that's the existing door, so this is all gonna be covered and there's, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Where do you come close to the height limit? Which
Well,
of these,
we're,
these turrets, if you will, these gables?
we're permitted to be 35 feet.
Right.
So, when this was originally drawn, the wall heights are like 7'6" on the second floor. So you're gonna go through the expansive, project and have these short walls effectively.
Right.
And a flat, a relatively shallow pitch roof, which also affected the ability for the reverse gables to be steep. So, they were willing enough, and to raise the roof, you remedy a shallow pitch roof, adding tremendous aesthetic value to the house as views to the front. And we will stay compliant, and we'll certify that it's going to be under the 30.
You have to stay compliant. We don't go over the height limits here.
That's the
Okay,
pur-
I wanna
that-
be very specific
I-
about
That's the
that.
purpose of the
I think,
as-built.
I think I did testify that the surveyor will come out and set the ridge, so I.
Okay.
Chairman, I'm sure Mr. Whitaker was aware of our height restrictions.
Doesn't always stop them from going over it.
I think it is the right answer, though. I think if you would see a house that was, at this amount of effort with a squash roof, would have been most disappointing and really unfortunate.
Yeah, you're not gaining much on that level. I get it.
Sanity foot walls and a roof
Right.
that looks elegant.
Maybe I'll let Mike comment from the engineering perspective, and other board members can comment, then I'll open it up to the public as well, but, so, go ahead, Mike.
Just piggyback along the height theme, we made that comment in our report because we're so close to the height. And everyone needs to recognize that the height is a function of not only the building, but the grade that's on.
Right.
Particular care will be taken to make sure that we don't run into a situation where someone's coming back.
And this is a sloped property to begin with.
Well, problem, but, the applicant's, architect and counsel for the applicant, we can fully understand.
Certainly do.
And maybe I'll just go to my report too. So I do note that, there's a lot of architectural features that are being proposed, on the front of the house or the park side of the house and on the barn and on the end of the house. And, the same materials and colors are gonna be carried around to the West Crescent Avenue side. The only thing that I would suggest that the board may want to consider is if, there's gonna be shutters or things, on those other sides that they be carried around to the West Crescent side, because that's the most visible side for the general public.
So,
And I don't know if there's shutters or anything proposed, but just similar type of finish all the way around.
so the double-edged sword here, which was part of my early experience with Cagney's, was the noise is brutal for them. And so they had to balance the requirement for aesthetic enhancement with the need to sort of, at some point, minimize the, noise encroachment. There's a fair amount of glass, I think you'll see, and it has a lot going on, and the porch will maintain a skirt roof, even though it's being built above, the, existing roof here. There's a number of nested gables. This happens to be the mudroom, if deemed appropriate, but also just observe the fact that this is a box bay. So there's, it stands, and it's just proud of the, face of the house, and it's received by. There's a step back of the main wall of the house to both the master, bedroom and the common bedroom. So there's a lot of play. If you consider the fact that you have 8-foot high evergreens, this facade on the first floor will be not seen effectively. So you will see the second floor, which I think is very presentable. First floor will be obscured, if not out of view. Shutters I'm not a big fan of. It's done, but I think, and the, 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 anyways, I think I think I think the interest here lies in the trend. So you have 7-inch cornerboard, 5-inch casing, freeze board, 10-inch freeze board, with the top. I think that is, will do more than the heavy lifting for, these days.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for or against shutters, I just want to make sure that the same level of detail was.
Matches all around.
Way around the building, particularly in like the back of traffic and most people are.
And your rear elevation, that's the crescent side.
Correct.
Michael, I would also say that as well for the barn.
Yeah, and it seems a little bit more, they at least looking at the plans, it seems a little bit more evident than.
That's fine.
The barn will have 3 windows, and the proposed window will be tall and narrow, which is more, let's say, craftsman style as opposed to squat. We're looking at sub-rigs, skirt boards, triple seat stone. This will have plenty of aesthetic appeal when you look at the materials.
And the stone facing, where would that's gonna be front and rear?
It'll be for all 4 sides.
All
All
four
4 sides.
Okay.
No fall underneath, by the Cagney.
And that's not something we see here, but that
The
was-
elevation shows the stone here, and
what drawing is that?
23, which may have been mismarked in the.
It's
packet, but
A1,
it is-
is that a B?
Yeah.
A1,
Is that the last?
on A1.
Oh, I see it
Yeah.
now, yeah, it's,
Sorry.
let's say, yeah, it's some crazy.
Yeah.
Messed up, okay. Yeah, I see it now, okay.
Then, item 4.7 is a couple of, I think, that's areas. Just like to see clarified on the set of plan that.
You still wait for that.
And then item 4.8, it's supposed to approve it, we talked about many of the items, and the other items, with the site rating. Key regulated areas that, cross the edge of the property, so, documentation, need to be provided as part of the grading and stormwater management plan, indicating that whatever they're proposing to do is either permitted by the DEP or they're outside of regulated area.
And that's the stream.
That's the street.
We have contacted Thomas Grable. He'll be on board. We felt that it was appropriate to secure the variance before the heavy.
I'm totally understandable. I just wanted to point that out as another step that we're to do this.
Right.
And then I guess my last comment is, we heard a couple times, that, what they're proposing doesn't exasperate the situation. I wouldn't classify that way. I mean, I certainly agree that what they're proposing is no closer to the property lines, but, there's expanded footprints and vertical expansions. So there's additional encroachments that I think, are a result of the specific, unique shape of the property, and I do agree with that statement, but I wouldn't say that, what they're proposing doesn't exacerbate.
Exacerbated and under the land use provisions and case law, courts recognize that they use that word exacerbated when the nonconformity is not being infringed upon any further. They recognize that more than the vertical, but I recognize that on vertical, if you wanted to interpret it differently, the vertical aspect does increase the overall look of a non.
The massive.
We all recognize that.
Right.
But they use the term in a number of cases, where the setback is not being exacerbated, meaning that if it's 14 feet where it's got to be 30 at this point and it remains 14 feet, that's where they use the word exacerbated. That's why I use it in the amendment.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. The garage space studio, is there light and power in there now? And plumbing?
I don't remember any light. Is there light in that? no plumbing, but I don't think there's even light.
Okay, so we're gonna, since you're building a studio, and I'm not sure what a studio means, I hope it doesn't mean studio apartment, because that's not gonna happen.
I have to say, I was reprimanded for that word.
As was testified to, a place for the family to go, workout room, whatever else.
I heard it.
Family. Yep.
Yeah. It will be a family, use.
And it's because it's got a nice driveway you can pull in off of West Crescent. It's not nice, but I mean, it's not a good driveway, but you can access a separate property. So that's a board concern.
So understandable. I
Mr. Chairman, I would have called it a man cave, but I'll leave it alone.
Doghouse.
When you're in trouble.
Anything else, Mike, from your perspective? Okay. Any other board members have questions of the testimony before I open to the public?
Question.
Go ahead, John.
The barn is an accessory structure,
The microphone.
and I wanted to just know, is height, being addressed here, on the accessory structure, and is or do our the zoning allow for a bathroom?
So I can answer the question. First, the height is not being increased to what exists there right now. The dormer, as was testified to, is lower than the existing height. So there's no change in the height. And, code does permit, bathrooms, just as permits a bathroom and a cabana.
But they are asking for, or there is a variance situation associated with
Right.
accessory.
Right. So accessory structures already get some relief because they can be much closer to the property lines and there are height limits. This one far exceeds the height limits. But it also
But it's there.
predates,
It's there.
it predates.
But it's already there.
The regs, so there, that's the dilemma.
It's set back a little bit further than the minimum setback.
When the farmer built the barn, there was no zoning code.
Right, that was probably horse and wagons going up and down Crescent.
That's right.
I doubt park existed unless it was just a cutoff. Like it is today. Okay, any other questions of the board? Open up to members of the public with the caveat that it's questions of the architect's testimony that you heard. If you want to raise a question, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I only request, I do see members in the audience, I'm assuming they're here in support, since there was negative comments on.
Well, that was all the questions that
We didn't get the.
I would
Okay,
suspect that there are people that may want to testify.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
The only other, I had a question on the legend. I just looked at it on the impervious lot coverage. The driveway section, second piece says there's 1,721 square feet. We're adding 0, and total proposed is 2,874. I didn't understand the math.
Sorry about that.
Is that typo or just a?
Yeah. There was some back and forth as to whether the drive would be widened, and we're well into the impervious, but because of the nature of the drop off, but there is a need to have a little bit more of a flare, so I will correct that. It's a modest change. So I would suggest that the existing is correct and the other numbers need to move, but they're.
So total proposed would be the correct number? And so you'd have to add into the adding that whatever number makes it work.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Any other board members?
Is there any shoring up of the proposed driveway that would be required on the park side? Because I see, there's a lot of drop off here.
There is a fence, and that fence does secure the grate at that point. So I'm not I'm not a civil engineer, but that will be addressed if so required. It's been there for a long time, so I would suggest that the movement that has occurred is what will occur. Any disturbance might be an issue, so, but that will be definitely part of the engineering department, for sure.
Yeah, and they have an engineer on board as well, of the plot plans, in the municipality. We'll bring that to his attention. Take the work.
Or as long as you're okay with that. Okay. We're good. Do you have other witnesses or?
So that concludes our direct presentation.
You can go to general comments, I suppose. Board have any general comments at this point?
I would just comment that I think it's beautiful. Great job.
That's my comment is you're doing a lot of work on, you must really love this location.
Well, look at our neighbors. I love our neighbors. Look what
Going to great expense.
Yeah.
Gonna add our great little house. It's gonna look good.
They've been promised to you the garage, the shed.
Well, the studio.
Well, we celebrate the Kentucky Derby. We'll have you all over for a barn party.
I'd love to see the mayor on those hats.
All right, then, if any members of the public would wish to be heard, any comments in general about this addition or this request, positive or negative?
I stand up.
Yeah, please come up and identify yourself for the record. You'd have to come all the way up, please, sir, and your name and address for the record. Sorry, we gotta get all of that.
Sorry, into the mic, if you could pull the microphone open, sir.
My name is Bernard Foyle. I live at 700 West Crescent, directly across West Crescent from them.
Okay.
And up the hill. And I've lived there for 15 years with my life partner, Margaret Palin. She's lived in the house since '98. And what they've done to that piece of property from the get-go is nothing short of phenomenal. When it was first sold, we even wondered, that was a corner where a truck could just literally come through and miss Park Avenue and head down. But everything they've done has been superb. I went over to actually watch the guys do their fences. I wasn't judging, but they were fast, efficient, and it's just become gorgeous, and I even sent her a couple of drone pictures that I took when I was doing our house across the street. And yeah, again, she told me about this, and it's like, it can only be good. I've watched the barn, and often wondered if it was going to end up in the creek. Because when the storms come, the river turns right there, so, yeah, that's about all I have to say. It sounds from watching this that they're doing it the right way. And as you even said, they must love this town to make that property work.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Any other members of the public wish to be heard?
Thank you.
We'll pick you up.
Name and address for the record.
I am Sherry Mercadante at 300 Park Ave. I am right on the other side of that brook. I am praying that that barn does not fall down because it will land on my house. I think that this, like Mr. Cooper was testifying, this property is very difficult to build on. The slope is tremendous. I'm at the bottom of that ravine and I look up all day at the barn and the side of the house. And it's a lot. And if you think that, oh, okay, 10 feet doesn't look that much until you have 3 little kids and a bunch of groceries and the kids are running, and the groceries are falling, and you're walking through mud up to your back steps. But this isn't just a practical design, it's really beautiful. I think you all recognize how beautiful that this is. I want to look at it. I have full view of that property. I want to look at it, and I find it very inspiring as Park Avenue has changed over the years. I've been in town for 21 years now, and Park Ave has been turning and improving and becoming more and more beautiful. And I think that this fits in with that aesthetic. I think it's appropriate for the town. I think it's appropriate for the street. And it's something that I'm going to be very proud to be living next door to, and a little embarrassed in my own house. In the meantime. I'll be here talking to you guys about my little house. But I fully support this, and I think it's great for everyone involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Brian Downing. I live across the street, 313 Park Ave. On the brook, so when I'm looking out in front of my house, I see their property in their house, getting great neighbors, and obviously everything that we discussed tonight will only improve, you know, the surrounding areas of our house, and you know, give them a better life and their children a more enjoyable place to live in, which at the end of the day is really all that matters, I think. So I fully support everything that they're looking to put their house.
Thank you. Okay, any other members of the public wish to be heard? Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other comments from the board?
I'll just say I really appreciate the attention to detail that you guys have put in to it. It is beautiful.
We work really hard here, every detail, so we expect it to be beautiful. We're excited to stay there with our great neighbors and just actually town. You coming from Walden, it'll be the presentation without it.
Okay, next steps.
Well, if the board was so inclined, somebody could make a motion to approve. The typical conditions that we would include would be the stipulations placed on the record by the applicant, which really just line up with the review comments from Mr. Breland.
And I guess would we get updated plans before we, well, obviously we'll vote tonight, but at some point we'd like to see, we'd like to see that for the record.
Okay. Conditioned upon revised plans just to correct the deficiencies and miscalculations.
Yeah.
As set forth.
Deliver 4 of those sufficient, so we don't, does everybody want to revise it?
No, I don't.
I normally have 4.
4 is good. You good, Linda?
I think so.
For the PDF.
Would that include your landscape, your proposed landscape plan as well?
All right. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make motion to approve. Amy?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a second on the motion to approve with this, with the stipulations that have been, stipulated to, and the usual standards that we set on these things. That Chris will include in the documents.
And that would just be to work in the field with the borough engineer and to make sure there are no negative implications on stormwater drainage to neighboring properties.
And we get the height right.
And get the height right.
Was there anything with the DEP? Or was that
that's
really out of our
yeah, that's a
Okay.
separate. Yeah,
Okay.
That's not us.
Okay.
And Melissa, you were waiting anxiously. Second, thank you. Sorry about that. Melissa, second. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll move to a vote.
Board Member Bergen,
Yeah.
Board Member Kistner,
Truly with pleasure.
Councilman Delavatio,
Yes.
Board Member Dallo,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Sirico,
Yes.
Mayor Wusinski,
Yes.
Chairman Quinn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
very
you're
much.
approved with the
Thank you.
stipulation on memorialization. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, it'll be memorialized at our next meeting, March 15th, and I know they have plenty to do between now and then, but, if you wanted to apply for anything, you could, but it wouldn't be issued.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Good luck.
You got more money than.
All right. All right. Any members of the public wish to be heard on any matters, to bring any matters before the board? Okay, I hear none. Bring it back to the board.
Excuse me, if you guys could
Yeah.
just have your conversation
Yeah,
outside.
we're still in
We gotta wrap up.
10 minutes.
Good night. All right. Any other matters? You have anything, Joe, to bring up from the land use committee?
So it's been a real honor for me to be appointed to council and taken over the land use committee. We've had two meetings. I'm shamelessly going to say I'm still getting up to speed, but we are reviewing sections of the code in regards to trees and ancillary structures and a few other things. One of the discussions that we had is the whole process of applicants that come before the board for variance relief, preparing, I don't want to call it a cheat sheet, but like a helper sheet that kind of explains what the board looks for. So the applicants, when they're coming before the board, they're kind of prepared, okay, what kind of questions are we going to hit them with? And they can, get up to speed, because, we typically always hit them with what's your plan B, lighting and vegetation, all that stuff. So we're putting something together for that.
It's a great idea.
And by doing that, Joe, there'll be less need for attorneys. The applicants can do themselves.
I was going to
They
say,
would-
make
they
sure
would
you
need
just.
attorneys.
Yeah, well, considering I'm married to an attorney, I can say that. Take care.
Good night.
So, I mean, that's really, everything.
Not so intimidating.
Yeah.
too.
And we're going over some resident issues that have come up over the last couple of years. I'm still getting up to speed with some of those. And I'm gonna work closely with Mike Lementola for property maintenance, and also with Ron and his team on some of the issues that some of the residents have, and of course, working with Mike, and he's great to work with. So it's gonna be pretty active. I did learn very quickly not to bite off more than I could chew. I think I tried to do too much in the first meeting, and starting to realize that I gotta pick it down a little bit. So, but that's pretty much where we're at.
One of the
Thank you.
suggestions other boards do on their applications, I don't know if you do it or not. First, they put the statute, the C1 and the C2, they attach it and say, this is the statute. And many pros say, many people that come without an attorney, I watch them when I'm waiting.
Yeah, they never got.
And people on the board say, well, is this a C1 or a C2? And they are.
Yeah,
stargazing. They
That's
have no
exactly
idea.
one of the things I'm gonna add. I
think it's a
appreciate
good
that.
idea.
Great.
The other towns around have that already.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Great
that. Thank
point.
you. Good
Thank you.
suggestion.
Great point.
That's the heart of the matter, what they're actually going for. And it doesn't go to their expanding family, it goes to the property. So that, if we can make that clear, that'd be good. You're looking for new members for our board?
So there's
Ms.
one
Mayor?
person, and then you gave me another person, so we're still kind of,
Okay.
yeah, so we just have one other alternate. So,
Okay.
we actually welcome John Dallow, who's the end
Right.
who's not an alternate anymore, and then Jason Morzala just, came on board, and we had to get, some, approved from his,
Employer.
employee, yeah, employer. And there's one other person, and then if this person doesn't, I have a backup person that you gave me. So I think we'll have a full board. And then just real quick, 220 update, it's completely demoed now.
Yeah.
So we will be doing shared footings with the builder. The builder who is building the condos is Terminal Construction, which is Don Janello, who lives in town.
Yeah, okay.
So they chose him. We are going to be actually starting to meet weekly to really nail down all of our specs. At our last council meeting, we authorized to go to bid. So when we do go to bid, hopefully in the next month or so, we're hoping to build kind of a tandem.
So
Okay.
the community center, and I'm sure terminal construction may also bid on it. So we'll see. So we obviously
Right.
have to use the local public law, land use law, go with the lowest bidder. So we'll be
Okay.
responsible there.
Okay.
And then we'll be updating the public constantly on that because, you know,
Yeah, they'll be flooding you with
Yeah.
questions.
So we're thinking of
Usually that doesn't
communication.
work its way to the board, but every once in a while, somebody knows you're on the board, they stop you in town, and what's going on?
Yeah, no, I plan on being 100% transparent. So it's going to be exciting time for the borough to have a nice community center and a nice gym. So we're excited to build it. So we'll be keeping everybody up. That's that.
So one more
Thank you.
addition, Mr. Chairman, real quick. So like for John, right, so there's a course, and I know Linda, usually new members of the board have to take a course. I think it's required, right? So you gotta let John know, and anybody else who hasn't taken that course.
Yeah, I
has
already
to take
told them
that
about
course.
it.
Or any of the new proposed members will have to take, I think it's 18,
Yeah,
you
Linda
have
actually
18
wrote a
months, I
great,
think. to take it.
an email, a nice, like, informative email
Yep.
that we're gonna start giving out to new members.
Great.
Have all that information on the page.
There's something noted on here. I don't know if this,
In the-
I didn't read it.
Yeah, I know,
There's something in
okay,
here
I don't know if they did.
that's noted that mandatory courses winter, spring 23, and it's virtual.
Yeah, they're all are
okay.
virtual. I
No,
saw that.
that's even easier.
Yeah.
You just have to go to Bergen Community
We
College.
used to have to take
if
the
you
whole
want
thing.
to, or someplace else. Yeah, I know, you could go anywhere in the state.
So
All right, good, I'm glad it's virtual, it makes it easier.
Yep.
Either exit.
the only thing is they're not calling out which ones they are.
Okay.
On that website that you gave, Linda, they have all the details.
Yeah, just a note, I did see Anthony Hackett, and he informed me that he's leaving the borough. Got a bigger opportunity, I guess, than unfortunately Franklin Lake has scooped him up. So I guess we're looking for a new code official as well.
Process in work.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Yeah, I like
very-
Anthony,
Very, very big shoes to fill.
Anthony did a nice job,
Excellent job.
and he was very personal too, so I'm sure for the people who had to face off with him too, I think he handled it well, from what I could tell, from a limited perspective. Anything else? I told a few of the fellows, I'm not gonna be here for the April meeting, so. I warned Mike Sirico already, he'll be running the meeting, so. So bring on the real tough ones.
There you go.
For April.
The fun ones.
All right.
The last one,
Another
Park
tower.
Avenue when you were out.
Yeah, what's, the tower? Yeah, what's?
Oh, yeah.
Anything
It
with
was
the tower?
tower.
Nothing, no news?
No news yet. We have to potentially meet with applicants.
Okay.
We're waiting to also potentially hire an attorney to help us walk you through that.
Yeah, it's pretty specialized, that works.
Yeah, it is, exactly. So we have a couple names from it tonight, so.
Okay. Good. All right, nothing else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we have a second on the motion.
Rico.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sirico seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.